We're monitoring three significant geopolitical developments today. The Iran nuclear negotiations have reached a critical juncture. Pakistan and Afghanistan are on the brink of open war. And Ukraine faces what analysts are calling a potential turning point on the Eastern Front. Here's what you need to know.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio confirmed yesterday that direct nuclear talks between the United States and Iran will resume in Geneva this weekend. This comes after months of escalating tensions, including last year's Operation Midnight Hammer, U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities. Here's what makes this different from previous negotiations. The Trump administration is demanding that Iran completely dismantle its nuclear program within 90 days. Not freeze, dismantle. Iran's foreign minister called this maximalist demands that no sovereign nation could accept. Analysts at the Center for Strategic and International Studies warn that if talks fail, the U.S. could authorize military strikes against Iran's remaining nuclear infrastructure. The Pentagon has already positioned additional forces in the Gulf. Key quote from our sources: "The next 2 weeks will determine whether we see diplomacy or destruction." What to watch? The Geneva talks begin Saturday. Any breakdown in negotiations could trigger sanctions within 48 hours. Turning to South Asia, Pakistan's defense minister declared publicly this week that there is now open war with Afghanistan. This follows a series of cross-border strikes that have targeted Taliban government positions in Kabul and other major cities. This is significant because Afghanistan and Pakistan have shared a volatile border for decades, but neither side has used the phrase open war since the early 2000s. The trigger: a January suicide bombing in Peshawar that killed 47 people, including 12 Pakistani soldiers. Pakistan blames the Taliban-aligned Haqqani network. The Taliban denies involvement. Qatar-mediated ceasefire talks are currently underway, but the latest strikes suggest both sides are positioning for a longer conflict. What to watch? Regional powers, especially China and Iran, are closely monitoring. A full-scale conflict could destabilize the entire region and complicate the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. In Ukraine, the Institute for the Study of War released a new assessment yesterday indicating that Russian forces have made incremental but consistent gains in the Donetsk region. The report states that Ukraine is gradually losing ground along a 400-kilometer stretch of the Eastern Front. This contradicts some Western assessments that have been more optimistic about Ukrainian defensive capabilities. However, there's a significant development on the diplomatic front. British and French officials confirmed they are discussing a potential peacekeeping force, the first serious talk of boots on the ground since the war began. Russia's foreign ministry warned that any foreign troops in Ukraine would be considered a legitimate target and would prolong the conflict indefinitely. To summarize, the Iran negotiations could determine whether we see another Middle East war. Pakistan and Afghanistan are closer to direct conflict than at any point in 20 years. And Ukraine faces a critical few months on the battlefield. These stories are interconnected. Instability in one region affects energy markets, which affects economies everywhere. I want to hear from you. Which of these three developments concerns you most? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe for daily updates. I'll see you tomorrow.